So today, we're going to dive into this really fascinating idea from a 16th century text. It's about a state of mind that's not about trying harder or pushing more, but about something totally different. It's about being called home.
I mean, just think about that for a second. We live in a world that is all about doing, achieving, pushing forward. So what if the most profound inner state, that deep peace we're all looking for, isn't something you can force, but something you just receive?
All right, so the source we're looking at today uses this incredible metaphor. It says our soul. It's like a magnificent inner castle, a beautiful fortress. But here's the problem. The author says most of the time we're lost. We're wandering around outside the walls, our minds just completely scattered and distracted.
Okay, so if our soul is this inner castle, the big question is, why are we always stuck outside? What's going on?
Well, this is how the text puts it. It says our senses, our thoughts, what the author calls the powers of the soul, they've basically abandoned ship. They've left our inner fortress and gone out to join the enemy, the enemy of our inner peace. And that leaves us just wandering. We know something's missing, but we just can't seem to find our way back.
So the natural next question is, how do we get back inside? And the text is really clear. You don't storm the gates. It happens through something it calls supernatural recollection.
Okay, so here's the definition, and you really got to pay attention to two key phrases here, supernatural and divine call. This is not your typical meditation where you're fighting to focus on your breath through sheer willpower. No, this is described as a gift. It's like an invitation where your soul is just gently drawn inward without you even trying. And this quote, wow, it just perfectly illustrates what that call feels like. It's not some loud, booming command. It's more like a gentle, sweet melody that your soul just recognizes. And all those scattered thoughts, they're like lost sheep that hear this familiar tune and just turn around. They drop all the worldly stuff that was distracting them and come back to the safety of the inner castle. It's beautiful.
And here's another really powerful image to help us grasp this. Think about a tortoise or a sea urchin. It doesn't decide to retreat into its shell, right? It's just this instinctual protective movement. Well, the text argues this state of recollection is just like that. It's a grace and involuntary reflex of the soul, pulling itself in for safety. And that's something you just can't force.
Okay, so this brings us to a really crucial paradox. If you can't force this to happen, then what are you supposed to do? Or maybe more importantly, what should you definitely not be doing? Right, so the source makes a really sharp distinction here. On one side, you've got meditation. Think of that as the active work, the labor, the journey of seeking. You're analyzing, you're striving. But on the other side, you have this state of recollection. That's all about repose, about finding something and just enjoying what's been given to you. It's the destination, not the journey.
So, with all that in mind, here's exactly what the text warns you not to do. Trying to force your mind to think of nothing, trying to wrestle your thoughts into submission, the author says that's a recipe for disaster. All you're going to do is make your mind even more agitated and restless than when you started.
And really, the takeaway here is simple but so important. Painful effort backfires. It does way more harm than good. The path to this state isn't through control, it's through surrender.
Okay, so naturally, an experience this profound is going to have some powerful effects on a person. But the author is also really concerned about people being fooled by fakes, by counterfeits.
When this recollection is the real deal, these are the fruits. And just look at this list. It's all about inner freedom and strength. You get this liberty of spirit. Your soul feels enlarged. You're not bound by fear anymore. Instead, you're filled with love. You stop caring so much about what other people think, and you get this deep, real desire to do things out of love, not just because you have to.
But, and this is a big but, the author warns us to be so careful. It's easy for pride to creep in, and it's really possible to mistake other experiences for this genuine gift. In fact, the text gets very specific about one particular deception we need to watch out for. And this is such a sharp insight, honestly. The author points out that sometimes, after praying for a long time, people get physically exhausted, and they mistake that feeling for some deep spiritual state. They fall into what they call a spiritual sleep and think, wow, this is it. But the author's take? It's basically nonsense. It's a waste of time and it's bad for your health. A true spiritual gift is not the same thing as just being really tired.
So if we can't force it, and we have to be on the lookout for fakes, what's the right way to even approach this? Well, the text leaves us with one last, absolutely beautiful metaphor. It's all about letting the garden grow.
This right here, this is the key. Think about a gardener. Their job is to let the water into the garden bed. But once that water is there, what's the most important thing to do? Nothing. You just hold back the stream and let it soak in, deep into the earth. You don't keep flooding it, and you definitely don't dig up the seeds to see how they're doing. You have to trust the process.
And really, that's what this whole thing boils down to. When this gift, this feeling of recollection is given to you, your job isn't to pick it apart or try to get more of it. Your job is just to be quiet, to be still, and to let your soul rest.
And that leaves us with a really powerful question for our own lives, doesn't it? In our culture that's all about endless productivity and self-optimization, where do we even make space for grace? What can we, today, learn from this 400-year-old piece of wisdom that tells us the greatest treasures aren't earned by striving, but are received in surrender?